Hello. Good evening, everyone. I'm Nan Sumsky. I teach the EB 280 online in-person media communications, public relations. And it's my great pleasure to bring my dear friend, Guy Norman B. here. He and I met many years ago.
29 years ago.
But who's counting? We're both 25. On a little show that we did together called ER. And he was an amazing Steadicam operator. I couldn't believe how he could get these shots. And our show became a phenomenon in very large part to this man sitting here. And he has flourished as an amazing director. And he's getting into writing and producing now. And I'm so honored to bring him here to meet all of you.
Thanks, Nan. Yeah, this is, it's sometimes tough for me to do this because I'm not really good about talking about myself, but when people ask me questions, I will talk your ear off, so just bear that in mind. But yeah, Nan and I go back to, 1994. I was a freelance Steadicam operator, working busy, flying here, flying there. And I got a call out. I ran into a director in Seattle on a show, and he said, I just came back from finishing the show at Warner Brothers in Burbank, and it was we had a lot of fun. It was a great cast, crew, everything was good about it, but me and the camera operator just butted heads all day long. And as a fellow camera operator, two things go through my head. Who was it? And also, what a horrible thing, because at the very least, as a technician, a camera operator, you're a problem solver. The director tells you, here's a shot, here's an idea, and you add to it, or you do exactly what they want, but you're there to facilitate what they want. I mean, that's, at the very core of the job. And so I said, who is it? I knew the guy. He was, kind of a miserable guy in the world. He had the reputation we all knew about. And anyway, to make a long story short, he goes, I'm tempted to let those producers know that, are you around? Are you available? I go, yeah, I'm just day playing. And he goes, well, I mean, this would probably be, if you got the job, you would probably be, I'm sure they're going to get a back nine, and they'll go till April. And this was like September. I'm thinking in my head, I could use that new car. Yeah, Vern, give him my name. Why not? So that's kind of how that all started. I fell into this. I went for an interview with Mr. Chulak, Chris Chulak, who's still a very good friend of mine, and the cameraman, Richard Thorpe. And they told me what the problems were with the previous guy, and I said, look, throw me in there, and if you don't like me at the end of the week, I'm happy to leave, and if I fit in, great. And so it was just, mutual admiration society. I really loved everything about it. I had already worked with George Clooney and Anthony Edwards on 2 other things, so those guys knew me. So when I walked in, it was such a great thing to have like your reputation precede you. Like they saw me and they went, oh my, of course, now we're going to do the show that we should always do, been doing. So we're on like episode 6 or 7. I think it was Dan Sackheim was finishing an episode, who's a crazy old, no, now he's old. This was 29 years ago. Really interesting director. And then like the last day, I see this lady coming down and walking the hallways, and she's like pushing, doing classic director hands. And I said, who's that? They go, oh, that's Mimi. You got to meet Mimi. And so Mimi came down, Mimi Leader, who directed Deep Impact. And before that, we did Peacemaker together. But Mimi and I became best pals and still keep in touch with her all the time through social media and stuff. But the next episode we did was Blizzard, and then, that whole first season, and I did the whole second season. And I kind of left there on a high and told them, at some point I want to direct. I want to be a director. They knew that. And there was also the chance to go to Chicago and shoot the Chicago units of the show. So what they would do is, concurrently with what we were shooting on Stage 11 in Burbank at Warner Brothers, they would pluck out 2 or 3 actors, a director, pick up almost an entire Chicago crew, and they would do anything that was iconically Chicago, Navy Pier, Michigan Avenue, anything that you knew you could never shoot at the back lot of Burbank and Warner Brothers. And a lot of Steadicam, because it was like, let's jump out of the van, we'll do the walk and talk, and at the end we'll pan over, we'll get the Sears Tower or whatever. And they had a local Chicago guy that they liked, but once I left the show and I was available, they'd call me and go, hey, you want to come do the Chicago units? And it was It was interesting because I was the only technician coming from L.A., but they felt bad for me, so they flew me first class. They put me at the Ritz-Carlton, and they gave me some per diem. So it was, I was like, it was imposter syndrome. I'm like, well, I shouldn't be here. But we were nailing these shots and doing, we had a very finite amount of time, because then when those 3 actors had to get back to L.A. to do in the next episode, they had to go to O'Hare now, and we need the other set of actors. So it was like clockwork. It's like a military operation in some ways. And so over dinner and drinks, I said, look, when am I going to get my shot to direct? And they promised me that I would someday. And Chris Chulak and John Wells fulfilled their promise to me in 99. End of 99, 2000, I directed and became a co-producer on a show called Third Watch in New York City. And enough about me. Somebody asked me a question. Or? Oh, God, sorry, man. Sorry. Go ahead. Well, right out of college, I worked at a rental house. There was Panavision, there was at the time, and it's still around, Otto Nemens, Claremont, and there were these camera houses that rented all the motion picture equipment, because you could buy Aeroflex cameras, but you couldn't buy Panaflex cameras. There was rental only. So I worked at what we called a boutique. It was kind of a smaller, and we had less cameras, but we were more, personal to the director of photography. And so what happened was, 2 of my friends that graduated a year ahead of me, I went to Long Beach State. They got jobs there, and I would come up and have lunch with them on like Fridays. I'd finish my classes, and I'd drive from Long Beach to West LA and have lunch with them. And so the boss there was like, hey, when you graduate, you want to work here, let me know. And I was like, really? And what was cool is they were the rental division of this company called Cinema Products, who were the patent holders of Steadicam. So I got the job there and started playing around with the Steadicam. And at the time, American Cinematographer there was 2 different guys, Ted Churchill and Bob Euland. They would buy full-page ads advertising themselves. And they would do these ads where they were, it was like almost like, like G.I. Joe, and they'd pose with their Steadicams. And so the Bob Euland ads, I was like, God, that Steadicam is huge. And then once I met Bob Euland, Bob was only 5'6". He was, a fire plug, but he was, so it wasn't as daunting. So I guess at first I never thought I could do Steadicam, and then once I met the inventor, Garrett Brown, and some of the operators that came through our doors, they were like, Guy, it's more of don't look at it as being a middle linebacker for the Chargers. Look at it as ballet dancer, matador, long distance runner. It's all about stamina and knowing your body and moving and spatial awareness. And I'm like, shit, I could do that. I mean, I was good at video games, and I loved being a camera operator. Like, I liked lighting, but I really liked my eye on that eyepiece. And I felt like every time my eye was on an eyepiece, not literally all the time, because Steadicam, you keep the camera away from you, as you know. So I got pretty good at Steadicam, and I would go visit Steadicam operators on set and watch them set up. And I got the confidence after a workshop or 2. And I found the owner of Cinema Products had a Steadicam that he bought and put into rental. So it was like a rental property. It was like having an apartment for rent, except it was a Steadicam. And he saw that I was renting it a lot myself. Like I'd get a job and I would take it out and pay the company. And he took me aside one day. He goes, why don't I pull it out of there and just you treat it like you own it, because you do anyway, and we'll eliminate the middleman. And I'll do 60%. I'll give you 40%. I'm like, Jesus, okay. So not only was I getting my rate as a camera operator, but I was getting some of the rental too. And, the unofficial thing was every time I pay you the 60%, it's lease to own, right, Ed, right? And so at a certain point, after I got really busy, after about a year, I said, I want to buy you out. What do you think it's worth? And we came upon a price, and I wrote him a check, and I owned a Steadicam, and, when I was 27, 28 years old. And it was, at the time, there was a lot of non-union, so I could work a lot, and I got in with the music video guys. So hundreds, none of them are on my resume, but I do Prince on Monday, Judas Priest on Wednesday, and NWA on Friday. I traveled the world with bands, Japan and Russia with Metallica and all those guys. And so it was a young man's, we'd show up at the airport, and we'd look around, and our film crew would look, and we'd go, God, there's nobody here over 30. And we'd jump on this plane and, start drinking and get to the place and just, it was like a pirate band, and we'd take over, but we were the music video guys. And so that was a really great way to make a living and get a ton of experience. But I knew in the back of my head I wanted to be a narrative filmmaker, so I was real happy to eventually get in the union and start working on TV series and some low-budget features. But hopefully that answers your question. And there's somebody over here.
Question?
Yes.
Well, first, can you rephrase the question as we got into it? And then we have a question from Kiara. Did you have an aha moment when working with Steadicam, such as finding setups that work for you or tips and tricks that you could pass on?
I was lucky because I worked for the company that was the rental division of the manufacturer. I could go to these workshops for free, and so I didn't have to pay for a few years. I didn't have to pay for any workshops because I was half there as a representative of the company and half there, for myself. And so I ended up meeting, like I said, I got to know Garrett Brown very well, the inventor, which is like, hanging out with Chuck Yeager if you want to be a pilot. This is the guy. I mean, so just watching other operators and seeing that everybody had like sort of a slightly different approach. And much like being a musician, some people are very technical. And then some people are, I used to say when I would instruct years later, they would call me to be an instructor. I was like, look, I'm the lollipops and roses person. I'm all about feel and I don't want to talk about anything to do with, the other guys are great at the technical stuff and your drop times and your floating or CG and all that stuff. And that's great. You need to know all that stuff. But I was more about, timing, rhythm, pacing, the things that how musicians speak, I realized is how I approached Steadicam. And, whatever aha moment I had was just that I could do it. Having Garrett Brown and Ted Churchill and some of these guys come up to me at workshops and go, dude, you're the ringer, man. You're pretty damn good at this. I'd keep going, man. Keep going. And then doing ER, I got it. It was the early days of email. I had, Guy B Vision at AOL at the time or whatever. I got an email one night, and it was from Garrett Brown. And he said, I've been watching what you're doing. And he goes, I invented the thing, and there's friends of mine that don't know what it does. He goes, I tell them to watch ER and say, you like ER, the way the camera moves? That's what the Steadicam does. So he goes, I actually have to explain the thing that I invented to my friends by telling them to watch your work on ER. And again, it's like having Chuck Yeager saying, hey, kid, you're a pretty good pilot. So that was a pretty cool thing, and it let me know that I was on the right path. Of course, in the back of my head, I knew I wanted to direct at some point. And physically carrying 75 pounds around, I knew at some point it might come to an end abruptly, but it didn't really. But you kind of get to a point where you're thinking, like at this point in my career, I'm thinking towards a second act, and I'm writing a lot and trying to get some stuff that I've written together and produce. So I think that maybe the aha moment is that, where getting encouragement from fellow operators, especially guys that were way higher on the food chain than me. And they would send me their hand-me-downs. They would get a call, and it would be like half the money they worked for, but of course 10 times the money I was making at the rental house. So I was thrilled to take their hand-me-downs and turn that into, something good. And, winning over the hearts and minds of cameramen and directors. And then like a year later getting a call and going, hey, our cameraman wants us to call you because he did a 2-day low-budget horror movie, and he can't stop talking about how much fun he had working with you. And so that was a good feeling, is getting repeat calls. You know you're on the right path when that happens. And hopefully that answered that question. Yes, sir.
Can you walk us through your mindset of switching from Steadicam operator to director and what that was like?
It was pretty. I used to call myself a DIT, which way before there was the term DIT that we use now for digital imaging technician, which was director in training. So I've always thought like a director. And what's nice about being a camera operator is you can't help but overhear every bit of direction that because I didn't know how to talk to actors. I mean, I took acting classes in high school, but I didn't consider myself an actor by any stretch, but I'm a massive fan of actors. So I would listen in on every blocking and, you know, really pay attention to what was going on. In fact, I remember there was an interview on ER with Richard, the cameraman, and he said, it was Richard or Chris Chulak, they said, our camera operator's guy's best asset is not his eyes, ironically enough, it's his ears. Because I would memorize the dialogue, because I had to hit my marks. Like if Clooney went there and I didn't go where I went in the rehearsal, and he turned around to grab a medical instrument, I'd blow the shot. So I had to hit my marks and know the dialogue too. So so I already felt like I was training to be a director anyway. I mean, as a cameraman, whether it's Steadicam or conventional, or even a first, second assistant on down the line, you know, there's a hierarchy in the camera department, and everybody's serving that camera. And so, you know, as a camera operator, you think in those terms about being a technician first, kind of, and then you know, get pulled into the directing, the creative part. And I just lean more towards the creative part, because I knew that was, you know, 216 or, you know, CTO on that light, but I didn't care. Whereas some of my other contemporaries were like, yeah, I'm going to be a DP, and I need to know all these lights, and I need to know their, you know, how much amperage they pull and all that. And I'm like, I really want to tell stories. I knew I was heading, you know, the rainbows and lollipops part of me, the musician part of me. So it wasn't a huge transition. In fact, my first day as a director, we all joked on the set because it felt like this is what we would do if the director called in sick. They'd go, Guy, what do you want to do? And I'd go, well, you know, it'd be kind of cool to, you know, bring him in here, and I'll set him down, and nice two-shot, and then we'll get, you know, over tighter, and then we'll get it over tighter, and that'll take us to the end. And cool, let's set up for that. So it was almost like I was standing in for the director, and, you know, it took a couple of days for them to go, holy shit, Guy, you're the director. But it was natural for me, because I not literally, but I grew up on sets, so I knew every nuance of, I mean, we use this term, taking the temperature of the set. You knew when there was tension, the makeup and hair people were on edge because of the way they were sitting, and so I was already good at that. That was really natural to me. A lot of problems that young directors have is they don't know there's nuance. Like, you know, it's easy to tell that your sound mixer, get the microphone out of here. That's not important. You know, you're in the shot. And, you know, if you're a professional sound mixer, that's a huge insult, because it's like, I'm trying to get you the best sound for you so you don't have to loop it later and kill your performance. And so a lot of times I would see as a camera operator an inexperienced director kind of blow it with the crew by being myopic and not knowing how a set works. And, you know, they can't take the temperature, the virtual, figurative temperature of the set. So that was all second nature to me. So it wasn't a massive amount of transition. You know, you see editors that get their shot to direct, writers, and it's you know, it sometimes doesn't go very well. But I was completely at home. The worst part for the first few years was I really wanted to operate the camera. I wanted to get on there and I'd unlock my wheels and go, okay, and I, you know, you reserve the right as a director to jump on and operate every now and again, but you know where I'm going. They go, oh, look, a tough guy still got it. Oh, it's just not worth it. It upsets the apple cart. So, and part of learning how to direct is learning how to, you know, delegate power. And the fight is, do I want to stand back by the monitors and separate myself from the set, or do I want to be in there, you know, next to the camera? And so there's always like little things that, you know, depending scene to scene, how involved you want to be with, and how heavy-handed you want to be, because sometimes it's better to kind of, you know, let things happen and then adjust them instead of direct, because that's another big mistake young directors make, is I gotta direct everything or I'm going to look weak. Well, it's the reality is it's exactly the opposite. What was great about being a camera operator for 12 years is we were talking about this earlier, I watched good directors just win hearts and minds, and like, holy cow, this guy's great. Or gal, I mean, we loved Mimi to death because her bedside manner, for lack of a better term, was so great. And then we get another like young new director, or a director is just kind of like what's the term? Blind. Like they didn't realize how they were losing their crew. How the little thing that's felt like what a director should say in directing 101 the manual that comes with being a director. That doesn't exist. This is what you should say, because it makes you sound like you're in charge. Well, it's exactly the opposite. You sound like a jerk, and you're losing your cast and crew. And that was always my biggest fear, is that, I wanted to, first of all, you want to be invited back. You want them to go, that episode, that director that just finished that episode, book him for 5 more or 10 more, whole season. So yeah, it wasn't a huge transition for me. It was very natural. And then I just got better at it, and I learned how to delegate the power better and stand back. And I love that. I mean, the collaborative aspect of filmmaking is sort of the beauty, and it's one of the few storytelling things that you have that guy, because a novelist, they don't have a lighting crew behind them. They're by themselves. And kind of transitioning to writing, it's a lonely profession, and you're dying to finish it so you can have people give you something, anything, feedback, Whereas as a filmmaker, where there's 50 people standing around with coffee cups, wait, where do you want this camera? Actors come in from hair, makeup, wardrobe. Where do you want us? Where do we want it? We sitting? We standing? What do you want us to do? It's a lot of pressure, but it's the best for me. I love it, obviously. Anyway, hopefully that answered. There you go. Cool. Yes, sir. We'll get to you next after. Go for it.
You referenced earlier the hierarchy of the camera team, and I myself am on my cinematographer's journey. So I've heard before that good entry place would be to starting as a camera loader, but I find that those jobs aren't prevalently out there. Like, you can't just look and list them. Oh, there's a job I can apply for as a loader.
Yeah.
Like, do you have advice as to finding those things or networking to possibly gain that opportunity?
Yeah, and loader's kind of almost like it's like a phone booth now. It's there's not that. I mean, they call it a DIT, and they call it like digital. Of course, you are way more involved in this than I am, but the loader's kind of an old term because we don't shoot film as much, which I can talk about that in a second. The transition between film and digital, but there used to be where you could go to Panavision, and there was a Panavision Hollywood like right here, anyway. Highland and almost Hollywood Boulevard. And you could literally hang out, and they were cool about you hanging out any of these places, Claremont or Autumn Emmons, and just to network and meet people and say, hey, here's my cheesy business card. If you think you can use me as a PA on your next movie, I'll be there early. I'll work hard. We were saying I'll be there. I'll be. Because the whole thing is when you come in, especially, and I was the same way. I knew I had nobody in this business that I was related to. You kind of it's a big networking thing, and also, I mean, in this day and age, I mean, it's almost better that you don't. I mean, this isn't great advice because everybody has a different journey, but I would just start shooting, just volunteer to shoot things. Not that it's a step back to come up through the ranks, because some of the best cameramen in the world started out as loaders, and took 10 years as an assistant, got a shot to direct or to be a camera operator, and then got their shot to be a director of photography. And it's a long journey, but all those years learning how the dynamics of a set work are very valuable. But shoot, I mean, the great thing is, I mean, I joke around. I have an 18-year-old who's graduating high school. She got accepted at Columbia College, Chicago, to study film. I gave her my Canon 7D a couple years ago because when she was little, she used to call it the good camera. We'd go to soccer. She'd go, Dad, are you going to shoot me with the iPhone, or are you going to use the good camera? And she knew that big sensor was the good camera. So a couple years ago, I gave it to her, and it's never out of her sight. She takes it everywhere with her. And she is going to, the whole thing, again, that theory I have about if your eye is on the eyepiece, you're learning. And the joke I have with her is, when I got started, we had to shoot Super 8 film, and then we had to get glue and tape and cut it in our dorm rooms and put it through this little cheesy moviola that you could check out from you had to have it back by Tuesday, or one of the other students get mad at you. Nowadays, if you have your laptop, I mean, you guys know where I'm going with this, and I'm so jealous. You have a laptop, Final Draft program, Photoshop, I mean, all that stuff. A Canon 7D camera, which you can buy at Best Buy or Amazon. Just B&H will send it to you overnight. You have a movie studio, and the only thing that's limiting you is what you want to shoot. And so, what's great is that that's all available to you. So I would just encourage you to keep shooting, put a reel together. I remember I wanted to do, there was a music video director I really liked. His name is Wayne Isham, and I keep in touch with him a little bit now because he did all the heavy metal videos, and I'm an old heavy metal. Well, when Dan and I used to hang out, my hair was down to here. People would go, hey, anyway, it's a long story. So Wayne was a guy that I just loved his videos. He was the only guy Bon Jovi would call, let's say, for instance, and Skid Row, or these bands, they would only call him. And I was working with other directors. I never got a shot to work with Wayne. And somebody called me one night, it's like 88, 89, and said, hey, Wayne's cutting a video it's probably walking distance from here, at these editing suites that you could rent out. And the doors opened up out to the street. So if you knew which door it was, you just knock, and somebody would go, yeah, can I help you? So I had an idea of which, I drove there, I parked, and I just went up to every door, and I heard the loud one, and I knocked. I go, is Wayne Isham here? And he goes, yeah, who are you? And I go, look, my name's Guy, Steadicam operator. I got a reel on VHS. I said, just take a look at it. I know you use Randy and these two other guys, but if they're not available, I'd love to work with you. I love your work. And you find one touchstone, like there's a shot you did in whatever, the I'll Be There For You video where you guys come around and it's a pan or something slightly technical, and suddenly I see Wayne go, all right, man, come on in. And I sat there till 4 a.m. with Wayne because we just talked. And from that day on, I did every one of Wayne's videos. He took me around the world. But you got to hustle it up and get that reel out there. And now you can send a link, say, check my link out. We didn't have links. I know you can build a whole website. It's so great. So take advantage of all that stuff. It's available, and that's why you guys are in these seats because you want to fucking get to the next level. You want to be where you want to be. If you didn't, you wouldn't be here. So I know that part of it, where your minds are, is you're in the right spot. And so it's like I keep telling my kid going to college. We could have got you in USC, or you could have gone to NYU and all that stuff, but they're more expensive, and the competition's harder. But any college you get into, it's what you make of it. So if you're willing to put the work in, you'll get the best education in the world because it's on you. It's your folks are paying for it. I know you're going to crush it. But there's so many different ways nowadays that, again, I'm so jealous of you guys, and take advantage of it. Just grab the bull by the horns and really, just hang on, because, again, I hate talking about myself, but I had no relatives in this business. I had the most rose-colored glasses. I thought you could graduate college and they hand you a script and you get to make a feature film, and the Coen brothers call you up and go, hey, you want to come and work on our movie? It'd be great if that was the way it is. It's not. We know that. But my lack of knowledge was the best thing. I always say I didn't know what I didn't know. And if I did know then what I know now, I might not have gone the path I did. And I fell into things, but I hustled it up and made things happen. And you can do the same thing. And so I would say just keep shooting. But still, rental houses are a cool place to hang out because you're dealing with cameramen that work all the time, and they're at work. When they're prepping, they're working. Because you prep for 2-3 days, then you start shooting whatever, commercial, movie, whatever it is. So anyway, keep working at it. And I'll get you back there.
Yeah, so first I want to apologize. I came in a little bit late.
Don't worry about it. I get it.
But so I wanted to ask, how did you get started in the industry?
I went to college. I grew up in Florida and wanted to make movies. And my dad, I remember this time in my life where my daughter is now, maybe a little earlier. My dad, it was like Central Florida. And there was a couple movies that had been made there, and I went and watched, and I was hooked. I knew whatever that guy moving that thing on the crane was doing, I wanted to do that. That's the coolest job in the world. That's how naive I was. And so we went to the Florida State, which Gainesville. We toured Tallahassee, FSU. So University of Florida, Florida State. And at the time, this was 82, 81, 82. Yes, folks, that's how old I am. So 40-something years ago, they were like, if you really want to make, we have a couple Super 8 cameras you can check out, and I think there's a video camera, but you can't point it at the lights or you'll burn the tube out, and it's expensive. They were like, if you want to shoot 35 millimeter film, you got to go to the West Coast. That's just all there is to it. So I realized that's the only way I could do it. And so I went to a junior college, became a resident of California, landed at Long Beach, because I'd heard that Spielberg went there. He never even graduated. And what's funny is I got invited to his graduation. They gave him an honorary degree, and they invited like a dozen of like distinguished alumni. And I'm like, you want me to come? We sat in a special area, and so it was pretty cool. Because I knew Steven by then because ER, and then I'd done some series with Amy Irving when they were still married, and he came by the set a couple times. Of course, I crapped my pants because, I mean, the reason at 10 years old, I saw Jaws and said that's what I want to do. So, you know, he was obviously a hero of mine, and so, yeah, once I got in with my group, once I found my people, which I'm sure you guys know what the feeling I'm talking about, I was home. This is where I want to be. I don't want to be anywhere else. And I got, again, the naivete and the expectations were way different than the reality. But sometimes being naive and having rose-colored glasses helps a lot, because nobody can tell you no, because you're like, what do you mean they're not going to give me a script to direct? Of course they are. But yeah, I mean, look, like I said, at the time, you might not have heard this, at the time I got started as a camera operator, because I never went through the assistant route, because I learned Steadicam so early at the rental house. Once I got going, it was just a matter of, contacts and meeting people, and then getting in the union, and but I never stopped. I mean, I'd wake up in the morning, even on a day off, I'd wake up and I'd start hustling it up, doing something, making calls or whatever. And I remember I was doing Steadicam, and I remember getting winded one time doing stairs all day. I was 26, 27. And so I go, I got to join a gym. I'd never been in a gym in my life. And so I joined a gym, 24-hour gym, and I'd watch David Letterman. It'd end at 1 a.m., and I'd go and I'd get on the treadmill till 2:30, and because it was like, the Rocky theme was going in my head all the time, just figuratively. But anyway, so that's, I kind of got started in a humble way, but I guess the long story short is, trust me, if I can get to where, and I think you guys have almost better access to things now than I did, because at the time the union was very old boy network. Like, the joke was you had to wait till one of the old cameramen died and they opened it up. And then they started getting in slightly financial problems in the late 80s, and they would open it up for a short window. And if you could prove that you had worked X amount of days non-union with your call sheets and your Chuck stubs and deal memos, whatever you could pull together, they had a company that would verify it, and they would tell the union, yeah, he's got his 100 days. And I had a stack of check stubs from all these cheesy, low-budget, independent horror movies or music videos, ton of music videos. Because at the time, you got to realize, I mean, I don't think MTV was what it started out as. It wasn't, remote control in the real world hadn't started yet, which are great, but it kind of ruined that. So hopefully that answers your question. And never give up. That's what I tell my daughter. Never, ever, 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 ever give up. Because you never know how close you are to where you want to be when you go, I can't do this. You could have been one footstep away, opening a door away from the goal. Anyway. Okay. Well, let's do you in the front and the young man in the back there. Handsome young man in the back. Yes, sir. No, you go first. Yeah. Well, TV series-wise, ER was really tough, but the most rewarding show in the world because of what it was and what it became. But, I mean, when I went down to do Titanic, I kind of got thrown into the deep end, because they had James Cameron would yell and scream at everybody except for his camera operator, Jimmy, who was a good friend of mine. And so Jimmy called my agent at the time and said, hey, I need somebody down here with me. It was all the scenes where, you guys ever seen that movie? Just kidding. I think I've only seen it once. But there's a scene where Kate and Leo are running down, and Billy Zane is chasing them, and then he shoots at them, and then he turns around, and David Warner grabs the gun from him, and then there's a big fight or whatever. But meanwhile, the water's coming up here like so Jimmy's like, at any moment my Steadicam's just going to give up, and we wrap it in plastic and we do what we can. But, I talked to the producers. I said, let's get another Steadicam operator down here with me, because I can be doing this shot while they're doing the dolly shot with, so we can do double up. And so they sent me down there because I had the right temperament and attitude. And, I had heard, at the time, I'd heard it was the highest budgeted movie ever at $200 million or whatever, which is chump change now compared to the Marvel stuff that comes out. But anyway, we wrapped all my Steadicam stuff up, and we shot. I think I was down there for about 3 weeks. There'd be whole days where we would do like one shot. So that was interesting and fun, and it was nice because I was a bit of a fly on the wall, because it was Jimmy's gig, and I was just there to support him and help him, and it was so flattering that he thought about me, and because him and my agent were friends, and it's kind of, we all knew each other, and that was the great thing about that Steadicam community is like, as much as we were in competition with each other, as much as we support each other. Jimmy called me. I remember one time at 3 a.m. He was out at the Hanson Dam area doing Terminator 2, and he called me. He goes, "I hate to do this to you. Can I borrow your gimbal?" And I didn't even ask. I just said, "Give me your address." And 4 a.m, I drive out there, and there's Arnold Schwarzenegger getting off a motorcycle, and we yanked Jimmy the camera off, and we put my gimbal on there. I said, "All right, I'm going to bed." And that was kind of a cool camaraderie that we had. Deep Impact was cool in the year before Peacemaker, because it was Mimi Leader, who was one of the producer directors of ER that we won the Emmys with, and so Mimi and I were really close, and she really, I hate to say treated me, but I was like a creative partner. I was her camera operator, but she wouldn't make a move without me, and I never took that for granted. I mean, I was just, because she would come to me sometimes, and we were in the middle of Slovakia shooting these shootouts with like half Croatian crew. I mean, they were Croatians, Italians, Irish. I mean, it was just people from all over Europe. They pulled together, and so she would pull me aside and go, I don't quite know what I want to do here. And I said, well, all right, well, look, I got the A camera here. Let me set this up, and then I'll get the Croatian guys, Zucky and Bucky, on the B camera. I'll get them on the longer lens, and so those creatively, those were super fulfilling. And Mimi, we used to put on big red lipstick, and so the best part was that, and I'll tell people at the end of the day, she would come up to me and kiss me on the lips and say, "I love you. I'll see you tomorrow." And I said, no time in my career am I ever going to have the director kiss me on the lips and say, "I love you," and mean it, totally mean it. And of course, I'm walking back to the camera truck going. And then I would ride with her, like director gets their own van to ride, and so she'd see me going out to the bus to take the crew. She'd go, "Hey guys, psst, come on." So we'd listen to disco or whatever mixtape her daughter made for us. So that very fulfilling. And what's interesting is, full circle, she's doing this Apple show called The Morning Show. My wife is the script supervisor. She does every other one. So she sometimes gets teamed up with Mimi, and so it's kind of funny that. And my 18-year-old daughter went to the rap party, and so it's fun she goes, "Hey, I'm Guy's daughter," and Mimi was like, "What?" So a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, and it's funny, we were talking about Austin Powers. Jerry Springer passed away, and we did in the one episode, one of the series that I did was The Spy Who Shagged Me, which is part 2, and it's the one where we did a whole day of the Jerry Springer show. Dr. Evil goes on the Jerry Springer show, and so it was one of the funniest and most fun things to shoot. We were just because Mike Myers' style is every take is a different dialogue. I mean, he just riffs, and we would rehearse, and I was the B camera operator and Steadicam, so I'd be on the tighter lens, and we'd rehearse something like the first day he put on the bald cap or it wasn't even a bald cap. He came out as Dr. Evil, or they introduced Fat Bastard or any of the characters, and he would riff on something, and during rehearsal I'd laugh because we're not recording sound, and he would always break character for a second and go, "Oh, if Mr. B's laughing, write that one down. I'm going to do that one, and we're going to do a take. If Mr. B's laughing, I know it's a winner." Anyway, a lot of fun. And what's interesting is all these years later, running into people that, because it's a little pocket of time that you had with these people on whatever movie or TV series, And like Nan and I will meet for lunch and we'll just talk, and we could talk for 4 or 5 hours. And one of the scripts I wrote, I sent it to her. She read it and said, you should send this to Noah Wiley. And I'm like, well, I got Noah's number, but I don't want to bug him. So I sent it to Noah on a Friday, and Noah called me back Tuesday morning and said, I think you got something here. Let's talk about it. So we're doing our second lunch next week, and Noah wants to, the little 24-year-old kid from ER is now 50-something with a beard, and he's all grown up, and one of the most intelligent people I've ever met. And so we're talking about developing this thing together and him starring in it. So that's cool. So keep those relationships going. I've known him 29 years. There you go. And yes, the young, handsome gentleman in the back.
I appreciate it. Thanks for being here, first of all. And going back to the Rocky thing, I was actually going to say something. For those of us that watch nerds, directors cuts and stuff like that, directors audio on the extras on that thing called the DVD. If anybody remembers what a DVD is, but I remember one of my all-time favorite Steadicam stories was Rocky One. And I don't remember the DP of it, but you reminded me of it because you said it, but also running up the stairs where he does the famous scene in front of the Philadelphia art museum. And I think the way they talked about it at that point when they shot Rocky One, it was like literally a harness with 2 car batteries, and they had a camera kind of hooked up on it. And they famously talked about, if you watch Rocky One, when they're in the boxing arena, which is where the Clippers used to play in downtown LA.
Olympic Auditorium. Yeah.
You can, on that day, for whatever reason, the Steadicam operator decided to wear a black and white striped shirt. And he looked like a huge referee. And he's running around the ring with the camera, and they did a pullout, and you can see the camera operator going around the entire ring. I always thought that was a funny story.
Yeah, no, true story. Because they got stuff with Garrett in there, who was the inventor, in the ring, but then they would go, well, look, if we put you out, the light's going to fall off, so you can just get back and just get that classic over wide where you got heads in the foreground, but the boxing is going on. And if you really pay attention, you can zoom in on Garrett. But yeah, I mean, the original Steadicam was kind of like the articulated desk lamp. It's that he looked at the parallelogram of it all. And he said, if I could attach something that was beefy enough that came out. The theory was you drive with a cup of coffee, you can hit a pretty big bump, but because you've separated that from your body, if the cup of coffee was sitting on your shoulder, it would go everywhere. But if you can separate that, and that was the original theory. And that shot, him coming up the stairs and going around like that, Garrett's from Philadelphia, so when he was testing it, he had his girlfriend do that exact same thing, and it's on his original reel that he sent to Kubrick, and he sent it to Panavision. Panavision passed on it. And he was and they were in Tarzana. He was on his way to the airport, and he pulled over to fly back to Philadelphia, tail between his legs. And he went over to this original Cinema Products, which was West LA, and he showed Ed DiGiulio, and Ed saw the reel and said, I want to buy this patent, and let's manufacture this. So for years, and Ed was my partner. Ed was the one that financed me originally, and I worked for Ed. And amazing stories. Kubrick loved it, and obviously The Shining wouldn't be The Shining without it. And there's some great. Garrett tells a story about Kubrick would typically do 75, 100 takes. So they were doing the thing where they were following the kid on the big wheel, and they shot at MOS because they had a really loud Arri 2C camera, which sounds like a blender. You turn on it, so you can't record sound. It's garbage. So they go to watch dailies a couple days later, and they're sitting in the screening room, having a beer after the day, and take 75, take 80, and they're just following this kid, and it's all great. And they're like, Jesus, I mean, we got this. And it wasn't, Garrett said, if you ever discount sound in a movie, you're wrong, because it wasn't until he saw the movie in the theater, and they added the Foley of the wood floor and the carpet. He goes, that's the thing that scared the crap out of me, not the image of that the kid's going to come around the corner and there's going to be evil twins with blood on them. He goes, it was the sound, the audio. Or I told Lulu, my daughter, I said, watch The Exorcist, but turn the sound off. It's goofy. It's not scary at all. It's the sound. Sound is very, very, very important. And as a director, you see that when you get into post and you watch a scene, it's dry, like two people talking out on the street, and then you get the sound effects guys to temp in like a old car alarm 2 blocks away and a dog barking, and playing the speakers, and it just brings the scene to life. Has nothing to do with the visuals. Anyway, there you go. That's my rant on sound. Yes, sir. You have another one. All right, here we go. Now we're talking.
So with the advancement of hardware and technology, like you said, like the Trinity 2, the hard Trinity 2, like you're seeing all these these advancements in movement with cameras. Like, are there things that you're watching out for that you're already using? And then the second part that would be like within that, what films are inspiring you based on camera movement these days?
Yeah, it's a funny thing. It's such a subjective thing, camera movement. I mean, I love it, but as a director, I'll come onto a show and I'll come down to visit the set, and the Steadicam operator will look at me and go, oh no, Jesus. I'm like, hey man, what's going on? Go, you're gonna kill me, aren't you? You're gonna use me for every. And I go, believe it or not, it's a tool. You don't use a crane on every shot. You don't go handheld on every shot. So I'm very kind of judicious, and I use it almost sparingly, because you also see, and this is a problem that we had on season 1 of ER, is we overused it. So when we had meetings at the end of season 1 about who they wanted to come back for season 2, and not everybody got invited back. But anyway, they said, what would you do to improve it, what we were doing? And I said, well, let me do what, if a Steadicam shot needs to be done, let's do it. But let me get on the hard camera. We can go a little longer lens, a little more cinematic. Because the automatic thing was, okay, put the 27 millimeter lens on and let's go down the hallway, and we were losing the creativity, and then it's just like loud isn't loud unless you have some silence. So if you have loud, you have nowhere to go. So I like the aspect of not overusing this, and they listened to me, and so we started putting on the 35 millimeter, a little tighter, because then you get that fall off in focus. It's just more cinematic. But yeah, I mean, I think the technology that's absolutely floored me and blown me away in the last 5 years is drones, because they're not necessarily just taking the place of a crane or a helicopter or a crane, but you can do them at eye level. I mean, you may have to loop some dialogue, but it's a small price to pay if you get a shot that you can never get any other way, where you pull back and you go through something that that there's no way they could have done that. So I'm blown away by drones. I want to try and do some more drone stuff, because usually you'll have the specialist guy and they'll do like a drive-by with you, and then you let them go for the day, and it's like, this is a shame. We should be using this guy more. And that's something I don't know how. I haven't played around with a drone in a while, but it's a good thing to have in your toolkit. That was another thing I was going to say, is one of the secrets to success that helped me was when I worked at the rental house. My boss there, his best advice to me was, guy, find something to specialize in. Whether it's, at the time there was high-speed cameras. There was guys that owned cameras that went 300 frames per second, which is no big deal now. But if you specialize in something, like visual effects is something. If you're like really into visual effects, and you have a particular niche that you like, or niche, and you own a piece of equipment that not many other people have, whether it's something you invented yourself, then what you've done is you've created an opportunity for yourself, and it'll spread like wildfire. I mean, if you were good back when I got started, they would find you. My phone would ring, and then I got my first cell phone in like 1990. Big, it looked like I was carrying a purse around. What are you laughing at? But it was great. It was 3 watts, and I got, I could call China. It was amazing. But nowadays with social media and websites and Twitter, and I mean, things can literally go viral in a day. So if you have a piece of equipment or a specialty or a niche that you are better than everybody else, or you're one of the top people, or like I said, if you have a special, and that's exactly what Steadicam was, because that's what the point my boss is making is, be a Steadicam specialist and own your own gear. Because a truck driver is good you could be a good truck driver, but if you don't own your own truck, you're always, I got to rent this truck, and find your specialty. And so that's a good piece of advice, I would say. I mean, and it's not for everybody. I mean, not everybody can specialize in something. But yeah, I mean, drones are pretty incredible. But all that stuff, all the gimbals and all that stuff are so much fun. I had a company, not Ronin, but one of the other gimbal companies, send me one as a demo, just try it out. It was like $300 thing they sent me, and so Lulu and I play with it every now and again, and it's got the pan and with the iPhone. And that's the other thing is I'm a huge, massive iPhone photography fan. The fact that you have this incredible piece of, it's just all the whatever the Photoshop stuff that you can add on, and at the App Store is so cool, a lot of fun. Anyway, hopefully that answered you. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about the business itself because it's obvious. I mean, first of all, you've all worked out, right? So it's not the strongest or the smartest that survived. It's the most adaptable. And you have gone from 8mm to Metallica to ER to James Cameron and Titanic. I mean, come on, you've had to adapt through writer strikes and fires and floods and starvation and then lots of money and then no money and equipment has changed and technology has changed. But it all really gets back to story, and that's what the director has to focus on, is the storytelling.
Yep.
But now that the business model has changed, and it's not 22 episodes if you're lucky, the back 9 and all that, and it's streaming, and maybe you do 8, or they'll get you to 63, it's not the same, but there is such a bigger demand for content, which allows also for more opportunities for storytelling. So where you see your daughter, for example, entering into the industry, or the students here, knowing what you know now, and knowing where things are headed and what you're interested in, like how do you find work? You still have an agent? Like what is going on in the world at this moment in your field?
It's funny you talk about this because it's been tough, because in the last 4 years, I'm the father of 2 daughters. I want them to have every opportunity in the world. I'm as if you follow my Twitter feed, I'm about one of the most liberal politically as they get, and there's been a big adjustment in the business to for more diversity, which is great. I love it. But what's happened is it's discounted a large swath of people, and I fall into that. So, but fight fire with fire. Don't get upset. Start writing. I just said, well, I can control that. I have all these ideas. I have these partial things that I wrote down over the years, and I can flesh them out. And I've had final drafts since 1997. It was funny because I decided to dust off my final draft, and I had the CD-ROM of my final draft. Exactly. This is a great story. So 97, I think I bought it at the writer's store, and there was a brick and mortar store in Westwood. You'd walk in, and it was boxes, and you'd go, I'll take Final Draft and Movie Magic Pro. Of course, what a joke now, right? So I look at the serial number, I type it in or whatever, and it says, oh, yeah, you got to call this number. So I call the number, I get a guy on the phone. And I said, hey, I just want to upgrade. I'm sure there's some new stuff since I bought mine. And he goes, oh, yeah, we'll get you on 11 or whatever. It's like they're up to 14 now. He goes, give me your number. And I go, 071, and there's silence. Oh, you're an early adopter, my friend. I go, yeah. He goes, I don't think I have this number in my system. I go, I bought it in 97. Oh, he goes, I was like 12 in 1997. Or whatever it was. So we got a good laugh out of that, but he gave me the upgrade, whatever it was. So I can control that, and look, life is nobody's promised me anything. No, it's hugely unfair. I've lost jobs to people that I know are half as talented as me, or half as charming, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I know that sounds like an egotistical thing to say, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, I should have got the job, but you brush all that stuff off in an hour and say, all right, onward and upward. And I've certainly been in pitch meetings where we got a great idea, everybody loves it, we pitch it, I can bring an actor with me, he's going to be the star, and they go, it's good. And then a week later they go, no, we have something else similar to it in development. They give you a nice, kind brush off. You just never give up. I mean,
But my question was where is it though right now? Is this more streaming? Is it, cable? everything is so in flux.
Yeah.
Where is the work?
Yeah, what I'm doing is all I can do is write for me personally, I write what I want to do. So I love that like Barry to me is on HBO is a perfect show. It's got the sense of humor, but the heavy drama. It's the Coen Brothers type stuff that I like, that I respond well to. 8 episodes, half hour. So that's the format that I write in. I want to. That's what I see myself pitching and what I want to do. So, yeah, it's tough because there's so many people with huge like produced credits that have done a ton of stuff. They can't get things made. I mean, our former boss I don't know if John was necessarily your boss, but John Wells doesn't have anything on the air right now. I mean, it's crazy. He's got something that's coming up, I think, that I heard about in Chicago, but it's and then a complete unknown group of people will come up, like Hacks, for instance. I didn't know any of those people, and I think that's super well done. Again, another half-hour HBO dramedy. You laugh out loud one scene, you're sad, or it's dark in the next scene. Like Slapshot to me is a perfect movie for that kind of thing. I mean, but anyway, I don't know if I have an answer to that question. I mean, all I can do is, for me personally, is just keep doing what I think could work, and I have obviously a massive database of people. I don't want to bug people, because there is definitely that fear of rejection, because I've 1,000 times I've heard, "Hey man, it's good. Yeah, good man, good luck with it." Click. And that's fine, I mean, don't lie to me. But every once in a while, Noah Wiley calls you up and says, "Hey man, let's meet for lunch. I want to talk more about this." And it may never go anywhere, but we may come up with an idea together for a future script or whatever. I just know that, I enjoy his company and vice versa. And so I think, if you can find like-minded people that you want to hang out with, I really, really enjoy writing. I mean, there's that staring at that blank screen and going, okay, here we go. I don't know. Sometimes I'll write 2 words a day. Sometimes I'll write 10 pages. I'll wake up at 4 in the morning and go turn the computer on and write in my underwear I'll write a line of dialogue because I heard it in my head, and I know I'll forget it. And I like that kind of like haphazard. And then when it all comes together and I read it and I go through and try and get the typos out, I really enjoy that process, because that's what it's at the end of the day, it's storytelling. And I think it's crazy that I never pursued it anymore, but I was such a busy director and cameraman that I didn't have the time. So I don't know if that can even answer your question, but there's a big adjustment with diversity, which I think is the right thing to do. It's time, it's past time, and I'm getting to a point. I still feel 19. Like I said, I still listen to heavy metal and think farts are funny, and and then a few years ago I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, so I get a little bit of a twitch. It's not going to kill me, but it's it's another challenge. But it doesn't bother me. It is what it is. It's like a little nuisance buddy that I have to live with. But there's always something, and there's always somebody younger and more handsome than me that I know behind me, and that's fine. And so there's been an emphasis, with the writing, and I'm also getting some, I'm putting out some feelers for professor jobs at some colleges, because I love this. This is a blast. I never considered it up until a couple of years ago, and I think I was telling somebody I got a call on a Sunday night from a woman at a college in San Francisco saying, "We got your name. Are you interested in being an instructor?" And my knee-jerk reaction was, come on, I'm a professor. Look at these fucking credits, man. And then I started going, you know what? Maybe this is whatever's way of telling me, this is kind of maybe your second act, and you can still write. So anyway, things change.
By the way, I want to tell you guys, I read both his scripts, and I've read tons of scripts over the years. They're good. I'm not just saying that because he's sitting here either.
Yeah, I mean, it's been fun because I write as if I'm the only person that's ever going to direct it. So, and also one of the things you learn as a director is show don't tell. Show don't tell. Exposition is is your biggest enemy. And if there's a way to tell a story my goal as a director is always to turn the sound off, and still, as much as I talk about how much I love sound, everything should play like a silent movie. It's a good touchstone. Yeah, it's a good touchstone to like a lot of times I'll be watching a scene and I'll just pull my headphones off and I'll just watch. And it's like if I just got dropped from a helicopter into this, when I know what's going on with these two people, is there tension between them? And are they going to fight? Are they lovers? Are they hate each other? And so that's been the fun part about directing for me, is I don't write like I need a director to like it and see themselves directing it. that could happen. I mean, somebody could read it and just go, hey, I want to direct this, and I'm happy to hand it over for the right price. But yeah, it's interesting because I've never sold a script. I'm an unproduced neophyte writer, but I kind of like, I mean, I did that before when I went from camera operator to director. I had no credits as a director. It was just leap of faith. And so it's I guess it's sadomasochistic to be in that position, but I'm looking forward to that challenge. And I've written a few things. I mean, Nan's only read 2 of my things, but anyway. So please, more questions if you have them. Or maybe you don't. Maybe we got to go. I don't know.
Who is your favorite actor, or was your favorite actor to work with?
Oh, my
I'm
God.
going to say Clooney.
I love them all, except, I mean, I've been in fights with some actors. Only, not in a bad way. I mean, here's a great story. Do you guys ever watch Criminal Minds? There's an actor on there. He was in a bunch of stuff before that. Thomas Gibson. Dharma and Greg. And anyway, Thomas. Chicago Hope. Yeah, with Mandy before Criminal Minds. Really short. I'll try to make this short. He was upset about something aside from work. So and they brought him in early, like 2 hours early for work. And so finally, we're ready to do the scene that we need all the actors. And it's ironically enough, it's a scene where there's no dialogue. They the bad guy in the episode kills the husbands of people, and he takes their wedding rings. And so you see the previous scene, you see them reach behind a painting, and they pull out a box. And then we cut to, it was a big Steadicam thing where we come around, and the whole entire cast is there, and they pour out the box, and like 18 wedding rings come spilling out. Pretty dramatic, no dialogue. So we're getting ready to block it. And Thomas says something about, mumble. But something sort of directed at me, and, I've got my headphones on so I can hear. He's wired. So I just, I go, here we go. I walk in and go, Thomas, what's the problem? I mean, obviously you're not happy. What's going on? No, let's just go. And anyway, to make a long story short, we finished the day, and I go, well, I'm never coming back. He hates me, and it's this is the way Hollywood is. It's not all sunglasses and Porsches, as they say. And like 3 or 4 weeks go by, I get a call. I'm working on another show, and I get a voicemail. And so I check the voicemail, and it's a really long 1.5 minutes of Thomas Gibson telling me how much he loved the episode, and he's sorry, and he knows I had gotten hired to do one in the back 9 because that was like one of the early ones on season 1. And he goes, I resolved that any problems we had, they're in the rear view, Ben. I mean, I'm really looking forward to having you come back. And again, just you did a great job on that episode. I'm so happy how it turned out. And I ended up doing like another 8 or 9 episodes, and we became really good friends and loved him to death. We talked to each other on Instagram almost daily. So sometimes, in the heat of battle, he was testing me. But no, I mean, look, I've got great experiences with. I was so lucky. I was just telling somebody I've directed Dennis Hopper, James Caan, Faye Dunaway, Ossie Davis. I mean, legends. I mean, and at the end of the day, they all want to be directed. At the end of the day, I'd come around the corner and James Caan would go, "How did you do, Guy B? Guy B, how did it? Was it good? Jimmy did good. Okay, good." Yeah, James Caan, one of the greatest. He would tell me Godfather stories. His favorite line is, if I would have had exact change, I would have been in Godfather 2. That was his favorite line. Because if you've seen Godfather 1, there's a toll booth scene that doesn't go well for James. But we would rehearse, like 7 a.m. call. He would spend an hour walking around hugging everybody before I could even get him. My AD's like, Jimmy, can we just block it, and then you can, hold on a second. He's talking to people about his weekend and how he played golf at Doral, and oh my God. And then he'd go, Guy, I gotta go. The makeup and hair people need me. He goes, I got Audubon hair. I go, what's Audubon hair? He goes, Audubon on a donkey's ass. I got the worst hair in the world. They sprayed the ceiling in a Sistine Chapel on it to make it go away. And he was a close talker. I loved every second of it. He'd come right into my face and tell me about, trying to kill Robert Evans he wanted to be Michael in Godfather. Anyway, if you guys haven't watched Godfather, watch Godfather. And Cuckoo's Nest and Slapshot. Yeah, I got my top 10. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, my favorite actor of all time was Paul Newman. Living favorite actor is Jeff Bridges, and I've never gotten to work with him, but I just think for my money, his resume is incredible. And I love Johnny Depp. I love Brad Pitt. I think those guys, I mean, they kind of get lumped in with they're handsome, but they're both very skilled actors. We got to go, don't we? Oh, you got a question? Oh, I thought they were kicking me out of here. Go for it.
When your career was taking off, did anybody help you with money and accounting?
Funny you say that. In '97, I had done like the 2 seasons of ER, '94 to '96, and I had a girlfriend who would say, "Hey, what are you doing with this?" Or she'd ask me questions. She was in real estate, and she'd go, "Guy, you gotta get on this. I mean, what if you tripped and broke your ankle? What if you gotta start? You know, you're in a union and you're getting a pension and all that stuff, but you might as well start doing your own 401k. I mean, set up, what became Super B Films Incorporated." So she hooked me up with a friend of hers, and from '97 until 2020, because when COVID hit, I knew I was going to be home for a while. I had a accountant, business manager who controlled my checkbook, which is good and bad. But he would look at the finances and go, you did good this month. We're going to throw some into this 401k. We're going to do this. And the 401k is like a diversified Charles Schwab thing. I know this sounds like totally nerdy and geeky, and for a 58-year-old guy to be talking about this makes sense. But I was not, in 1997, I was bulletproof, right? We're talking 26 years ago. But holy crap, man, I look at what all the advantages of doing that back then and having somebody control sort of the finances in a good way. And I'm very lucky in that I know I'm going to retire well. But yeah, it's fun. It's funny you say that because it's sort of top of mind lately in the last couple of years. And so yeah, I would definitely suggest finding an accountant you like a lot. And then, even somebody that can go to the next level, which is like sort of business management. Because, yeah, I mean, in 1992, I was 27, 28, and I was making money. And the accountant I had at the time, because this was 5 years before I went with my guy that, set me up with everything else, she was like, you're giving half your money to the government. And I'm like, what? I'm doing what? I don't know, I'm not. Again, I'm bulletproof. What are you talking about? And she said, you got to invest in real estate. I go, what do you mean? She goes, well, you got to buy a house. I'm like, I don't want a house. I want to, maybe I'll do a condo, something I can lock the door and go. So at 27 years old, I had to buy a house, which was really cool. I mean, I look back on it now and I'm like, holy crap, that was pretty cool. But yeah, it's easy to get away from you. And because at the time when you're in your 20s, it's like the last thing on your mind. I just was interested in, where we're going to go have sushi later tonight and, which car I could, trade in this car for. And anyway, but that's a very good question. I highly recommend getting things in the pipe as a young person because it will pay off now. Thank God. Good question. Yes, ma'am.
What do you not do? What are some things you wish you would have known or didn't do? Or what are things now if somebody's going to do this? What are some, what were you thinking moments or basics, anything?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think I'm doing it now, which is the writing. I mean, ironically enough, if you own an IP, an original idea, and you write, and you're a good writer, look at Tarantino. He wrote a kick-ass script, or he wrote scripts that were good. Because I think True Romance, and he wrote he polished Hunt for Red October or something. I guess my point is writing for the screen. Good screenwriting is like learning another language. It's like learning to read and write and understand Latin, because it's a format, and you have one typo, you have one bit of syntax, or a log line that's like weirdly spaced. And anybody that reads scripts for a living, they're looking for a reason. They have a stack like that on their desk. They're looking for a reason to toss it. And if you say, look, so he slammed on the brakes, BREAKS, which spell check won't count. That's it's little stuff like that. So I would say learn to write. Even if you don't want to be a writer, study the format. Because you may, like me, you may fall in love with it. I mean, I always liked to write, but I never took the time to learn the language. So I'm kind of playing a little bit of catch up. but also for my entire career as a director and a cameraman, how many thousands of scripts, episodes, and feature films did I read? And then once I started directing and got busy, people would send me scripts all the time and just say, just get it made. I don't want a dime for it. It's something I wrote. It's a passion project of mine. If you get it made, just give me credit. And and so I've read, bad screenwriting. It happens. It's one of those things like you see actors or you see singers come on American Idol and they're horrible and they interview them after and they go, I don't understand why they rejected me. All my friends tell me I'm a great singer. Like they're being nice because you're their friend. It's tough because I've read a lot of scripts where I've had to give the old, yeah man, it's good. Hey man, good luck with it. Yeah, good. So that's always in the back of my mind. But yeah, I would say I should have started writing from Jump Street, and you guys are in the perfect position to do that now, and read scripts, read that sort of language, and see how a really good script is slickly written. Like I've fallen in love with the idea of like a novel. You'll say he comes over the hill and sees this this grass valley full of poppies. He saunters through it's day, exterior, field. And in the economy of words, you start to fall in love with. I wrote a scene where these three guys come to this place, a used car lot, and there's a guy who always tortures them named Todd. And the three guys, two of the three guys know Todd real well. The third guy doesn't really know him very well. So they come over, they see the boss, and they go, one guy goes, Todd? Boss goes, Todd. Second guy goes, Todd. And then the third guy doesn't know very well goes, Todd? Todd. So I wrote a scene where they say nothing but Todd. And it works. And, the fun part of it is that I know if in the hands of the right actors, you don't need any more. I mean, that was like almost an exercise in how can I, because you always hear that criticism is there's too much black on the page. You've typed too much. These descriptions, people's faces go dull when they, oh God, I got to read all this. So it's like, all right, well, I'm going to show you. I'm just going to economize day, exterior. You get a little fancy because it's easy to say, lesson learned. He backs into a car without checking the rearview mirror. Lesson learned. And that kind of describes a whole scene, which is a guy gets in, he rear ends, so he hits the car. So study that format because screenwriting it's an art form unto itself, and it's addicting. I find, I really love it. Yes, sir.
With your director credits, I noticed that you have a lot of sci-fi shows. And is that something that you're a fan of, and that's where that more based on contacts and people you work with, so you fall back in like sci-fi projects?
Yeah, a little of both because I got in with the CW or even WB early on. And Supernatural was something I fell into. The director of the pilot, David Nutter, recommended me to the producers when they were booking the first 10 episodes. Here's guys good at this kind of stuff. And then I think I did Arrow, a bunch of Arrows, and I'm not a huge comic book sci-fi fan. I mean, I have a Nostromo shirt on, so that maybe I'm lying. It's so funny. Someone earlier today goes, "Oh, cool, Blade Runner." I go, close. Same director. It's from Alien. So yeah, I say that I'm not a big sci-fi fan, or like I was never a Trekkie, and I don't go crazy for Star Wars. I appreciate them and love them to death, but I lean more towards not that. Like.
When you're given these shows to direct, you're just handed the script and you're based off that. So you can never have watched the show before, and now you have this opportunity to direct the show, like say the Magicians. And
Exactly.
It's your first time ever seeing it.
Yeah.
To figure it out.
Well, yeah, it's funny you mentioned Magicians because the showrunners, co-showrunners, John McNamara and Sarah Gamble. Sarah was one of the showrunners on Supernatural, and I worked with John on a couple different things. So I knew them already. They actually interviewed me to be the producer-director to move up to Vancouver and kind of oversee it. And they ended up getting a local guy, and it didn't go well. But anyway, so I knew nothing about it, but I knew there was a book. So I read the book before I went into the meeting. But I like all that stuff as a challenge because it's not something I would pick for myself. and also you don't ever want to get pigeonholed, because for a while there I was the cop procedural, you know, the 3-letter agencies, FBI, CIA, whatever. I would do a bunch of that. Yeah, yeah. A lot of that stuff, is cool because it's you actually, your tech advisors are the real deal. Like when we did Criminal Minds, we had one of the original BAU profilers who was based in Quantico, Virginia, retired, but the writers had him on speed dial. So I love all that stuff. But also it's great to do a scene where somebody is on wires and they get ripped out, or they have yellow eyes, or they, we cut heads off all the time on Criminal Minds. Or I mean, not Criminal Minds, on Supernatural. So I love that stuff because the rules are, it's pure fantasy. It's the reason I like Field of Dreams so much is it's 15% fantasy. So yeah, I mean, I like kind of not being pigeonholed as one type of director, and then also you enter a world. I always call myself a method director, because when I enter a world of what we're doing, I kind of immerse myself. I'll watch not necessarily the show, but the style of show. Like if anything's like a Western or something, I'll watch movies while we're prepping and shooting that are all Western. I try and, you want to steal ideas too. Graphic novels are also cool things to buy and just look at the frames, and that's a cool way to steal kind of ideas. And you don't steal them really; they lay in your subconscious. You go and you think you thought it up originally, but it's probably a panel from a graphic novel you looked at, or just being inspired by stuff that's already been out. I remember doing an episode of Supernatural, and I just watched Black Swan, the movie Black Swan, and which was really cool and original and different. And in my episode, there was some kind of duality between like two different, like some guy had like. Anyway, it was very inspiring to work. So I think you'll find yourself doing that a lot. Yeah, there you go. All right, have we run out of? We've actually run out of questions. How about the internet? Who's on the internet? Nobody. Okay, fine. I won't take that personally. Anything
you want to wrap up with for the group?
No, it's inspiring. I mean, again, I feel like I'm a 19-year-old kid trapped in a 58-year-old man's body, and I'm jealous of you guys. So take it, take it. You got all these opportunities, and you're, like I said, you're here because you want to go to that, whatever that next level is. You see something on the horizon, and it's there, because I've felt that same thing too. I mean, there's nothing cooler than working on a project and somebody that you've been a massive fan of, an actor or a cameraman or a director, becoming a fan of yours. I mean, that's the greatest feeling in the world. I remember,
we had Quentin direct ER, remember?
Yeah, that's right. He did the Mother's Day episode. Yeah. He had just won the Academy Award. And the story was that he was at some DGA. He wouldn't join the DGA, but he was at some award thing. And he came walking past the table with all the ER producers. And he knew who they were. He goes, "Man, I love your show, man. You guys are kicking ass. Maybe you like the Beatles of TV." And they said, and they looked at each other, and John Wells said, "You want to direct one?" And he was like, "No way, bro, really, dude, far out." And they did, and they had to get like a waiver because he wouldn't join the DGA. But we had a blast. We had a blast on that.
And then we got in trouble with the Emmy Awards because he wasn't in the DGA, and they wanted him to be, and that was the whole thing.
Yeah, years later, I did a movie called Replacement Killers as a camera operator. And it was a lot of fun, like that whole Hong Kong, because I was a big fan of Chow Yun-fat, who was the star from Hard Boiled. So there's a perfect example. We're a couple weeks into that movie, and because in China, he doesn't have a trailer. He just comes to the set and he sits in a chair. So he felt really, they'd go, you have a trailer over there and a big pop-out thing, and you can go relax. And he goes, no, I want to hang out. And he would sit on the dolly with me, and he barely spoke English, but he knew if something was funny, he would laugh and laugh. And we became like super close. I'm like, 2 years ago, I worshiped this guy. If you had a chance to watch Bullet in the Head, Hard Boiled, some of the early John Woo stuff from China. And what's funny is in China, he was known as the John Wayne and the Jim Carrey. He would do a comedy, and then he'd do a shootout thing. He would just say to me, he'd go, "No kung fu, no kung fu, no kung fu." He did all the gun stuff. Anyway, so they're doing that movie. The co-star was Mia Sorvino, and Mia had just won an Academy Award, but she was dating Tarantino, and Tarantino would come down to visit her on the set, and he knew me from the ER. So he comes walking on the set, and they're like, all the guys are going, hey, I think that's Quentin Tarantino. And like from 100 feet away, he goes, dude, Guy B, what's up, bro? And they're like, the fuck do you know? Anyway, that kind of stuff is fun. Or doing Deep Impact, and the first day, Spielberg comes to visit Mimi to as a DreamWorks movie. And I'm building the Steadicam, getting it ready, and all my camera guys are around me, that some of which I brought on with me. I was able to hire some guys or make the suggestion to hire. And Spielberg comes walking up, and these guys are like, Steven Spielberg. And he goes, hey, Guy, how's it going? I go, I'm good, man. I go, I heard you're off to Ireland. He goes, yeah, we're gonna start Private Ryan next week. And he's like, oh, I just came to wish Mimi a good time. I go, oh, yeah, Mimi's right over there. And so he goes over and walks over, and all my guys are looking at me like, he knew your name. I go, yeah, whatever. It's Steven. He's a nice guy. And then, of course, in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, I fucking know him, man. So anyway, fun stuff. Fun.
All right, then. Thank you, Guy.
We did it.
We
Thank
really
you, guys.
appreciate
Thank you, guys.